What's up guys, welcome back to Aquatic Elements. Today we are heading to the world's oldest operational aquarium. Now I have never ever been here before and I don't even know what to expect, but I'm super excited. I haven't really done a video like this for a long time, so let's head to the aquarium and let's check it out. Now we are on the way to the aquarium and I decided to take the train. If you guys haven't guessed where we are going yet, then let me tell you, we are heading off to the south coast of the United Kingdom and we are off to Brighton. Now it's an absolutely lovely part of the world. Now I've been here a couple of times before, but surprisingly, I've never been to their aquarium. Now we took the train down and it was an absolutely glorious day and I could not wait to get off the train and get to the aquarium. Now I would have said the aquarium was around a 30-minute walk from the station, so if you did decide to visit here yourself and get the train, then it's around a 30-minute walk. But we are getting to the front gates now, so it's time to head down into the aquarium itself. Now, first thing I noticed about the aquarium was the architecture is absolutely stunning. Now, I believe this aquarium was originally constructed in and opened in 1872. So it has some absolutely stunning architecture, which is a sort of Gothic style, I suppose you could say. Now, when the aquarium was originally built, it would have cost the equivalent of £5.5 million to construct. And it is, I believe it's underground. Now, when you get to the front gates, you go down these stairs and into this underground aquarium, and I had no idea what to expect. I've been to quite a few public aquariums before and sometimes they're not too exciting, they don't have too much going on, but this was really amazing to see and it actually blew me away. It was really difficult to actually film the exhibits and take them in whilst I was there. So I've shown a little bit of a few clips of the interior of the aquarium, and it is that sort of Gothic Pompeian influence and architecture with loads of arches and the stone columns and granite statues throughout, and they've really done a brilliant job at keeping that look within the aquarium. Now, it was opened in the 19th century and I'm sure the exhibits and the fish on display have changed massively since it was originally opened. But there are a lot of different displays and there are a lot of freshwater, marine and some cold water displays as well. And I'm going to take you on my tour throughout this aquarium. I didn't really want to distract the video by vlogging in the aquarium. I really wanted to try and focus on the fish, focus on the exhibits and really have a look at the different species that they actually keep here. Now, I believe there is 5,000 species of fish and invertebrates within this aquarium, which is absolutely incredible. They have so many different species on display, from the marine tanks to the freshwater tanks. Now here you'll be able to see some of their butterflies in this marine exhibit and this absolutely huge pink-tailed trigger. Now, one thing I did notice throughout the tour of this aquarium, all of the fish are really well fed. They were all super chunky, super healthy, and I couldn't really see any fish having any sort of damage or looking ill or whatsoever. Now this trigger, you can just see the width of it, absolutely huge. They were definitely very well fed, and I hate to say it, but some of them were looking a little bit fat and chunky as well. Now, they did have different sections and they specialized within each aquarium. You can see there's a Spanish hogfish in this tank, and there was also a Caribbean blue tang in here. Now, I believe each of the exhibits represented a specific locale within the world. They even had their own native aquariums where you can see different sea urchins. They even were running some Senai equipment, which I saw throughout the video, which sort of tracks the water parameters, temperature, ammonia, bits like that. They had some native anemones, and they also had some huge starfish. You can see compared to my hand just how big they were. Lots of different species, which was really, really cool to see, especially those native fish that I guess you would only see if you went diving within the UK. They even had a display exhibit which was featuring the Brighton pier with their native species. Now, there was lots of signage around the aquarium, and I didn't want to distract the video by capturing that. I wanted to try and focus on the fish in question. Now, I believe these are potentially a cod or a lingcod, or potentially a pollock, which inhabit the areas under the pier, along with sea bream. They also had sea bass as well, along with the invertebrates like the starfish and the sea urchins, and these more cold water displays. Now, as the video goes through, we will be seeing their massive oceanarium, which is a 750,000 litre marine tank, which absolutely blew my mind. It's also got a walk-in tunnel underneath it, and we also will see some incredible monster fish, which blew me away further throughout this video, so make sure to watch to the end. Now, I believe they had around 40 exhibits you could look at. I didn't quite film everything because I thought if you guys wanted to go and visit and watch and actually go there yourself, then you're not going to want to see all of the exhibits they had on offer. But you can see they had a nice koi and carp tank with lots of different big carp and sturgeon in. I managed to get a few little top-down shots of this with the mirror carp and the common carp. I would have said these fish were sort of up to 2 feet, maybe 65, 75 centimeters, but they're pretty big chunks in there. Moving through, we had this really cool open top exhibit, which was a saltwater tank with mullet, different types of skate and rays, and I think they may have had a shark or two in here as well. There were quite a few different cat sharks which we saw, which are more of the benthic sharks that live on the bottom and on the sandy substrate, but there were some huge mullet in here. I believe they are the grey-lipped mullet. Also some black bream and sea bream, and this ray was just popping out the water thinking I was giving him some food. I haven't actually ever kept any saltwater rays, but these guys were pretty cool. They looked like they were smiling when they came to the front of the acrylic, and although you couldn't touch them, you could get very, very close. Next up, they had another saltwater marine tank, another cold water tank with a few rays in it, and they even had some ray eggs as well, some mermaid's purse, which we'll see in just a moment. This tank had a few different wrasse in and the cat shark, and I believe these are native to the UK waters. You can see this ray just at the front here. Very, very young, very small. And they had a really nice acrylic divider which was separating the tank. I haven't seen something like that before, but I'm sure us monster fish keepers could utilize something like that to prevent pups or young fish from being with the adults. You could have seen the mermaid's purses there as well. This octopus was absolutely awesome. I think his name was Noodles, and he was probably a good 2 feet in width. Now we're moving through onto the Amazon exhibit, where they had lots of different tropical freshwater tanks. We've got some glass catfish here in with some vallis and some plants, and then they had a large piranha tank with some flagtails in and a clown loach, not quite native to South America, but some really nicely kept species. They also had some angelfish in there as well, and all of the water in all of the tanks was super clear and looked to be really, really good quality. They definitely paid good attention to the filtration systems. Now on the bigger tanks, I'm assuming they're using sumps, sand filters, and industrial equipment to keep the water nice and clear. You can see we had some terrapins and some turtles in that tank there. And moving on to some of the biggest birches I'd seen. Now there were 2 ornate birches within this tank, and they were a good 50 centimeters and very, very large in girth as well. Very well fed, and I couldn't believe the size of them. Now I've seen some small ornates in your local fish stores, but these guys were very chunky and some proper nice dinosaur fish. Now we are finally moving through to the oceanarium, the 750,000 litre saltwater aquarium, or saltwater tank, I suppose you could call it. And this was home to some absolutely amazing sharks and turtles as well. Now, they had a multitude of different species in this tank. We had some smaller fish like the foxface, unicorn tangs, and different surgeonfish. And they also had loads of sharks, which you can see this amazing top-down view. One of the employees there was feeding the fish, which we got to see on the glass bottom boat. Now, I didn't get to go in the glass bottom boat, but that is something you can do extra when visiting the Brighton Aquarium. You can actually go on that and see all of the fish from the top down position, and you'll be able to see just to the left of the screen, we have the underwater tunnel, which we're going to be walking through very, very soon. You can see we've got a copper band here, along with all of those sharks. The water was so clear. This is a massive exhibit, but all of the water was absolutely crystal clear, and that will be down to the industrial filter systems that they use, the huge protein skimmers, and just check out the green sea turtle. Absolutely incredible. Now, there was a reel that went out on Instagram and Facebook that you probably would have seen, and you could just see the scale and size of these green sea turtles. They were absolutely beautiful to swim past the glass or the acrylic panels, and luckily it wasn't very busy, so we really got to admire the true beauty of these marine reptiles. Now, moving on, you can see some more of the sharks. I really got quite a lot of video footage of this tank because the sharks were just super impressive, and the schools of huge numbers of fish in this tank as well. Now, it still definitely wasn't overstocked. The fish had so much room to swim around, and I couldn't see any aggression or anything like this. You can sort of gauge the size of this tunnel walking through, and it was really, really impressive to see. We're going to be coming out of this section now and moving on to a few more freshwater tanks. Coming out of the oceanarium, we did have a saltwater tank with a nice selection of different corals, some SPS, some LPS, and some softies, along with more of your standard marine fish that you would keep in an aquarium or the home aquarium. I think this exhibit was around the 1,500 litre mark. Pretty big tank still, but something that was a little bit more easier to keep in the home environment. We can see a huge fly river turtle in this tank. Now, a lot of these aquariums and a lot of the exhibits they had here were actually fish that they'd rescued. Now, obviously, keeping monster fish and very large fish and reptiles like the fly river turtle, they often outgrow the owner's tanks and they can never find a true home for them. Now, luckily, the Brighton Aquarium manages to take quite a lot of these species and quite a lot of these fish off people's hands and actually take them and show them off to the public. And it's really nice to see how big they get, and also they can portray that to the public and maybe incentivize you to purchase these fish unless you've got a proper setup for them. We would have just seen the snake neck turtle, but coming on to one of my favorite tanks was this monster freshwater aquarium housing some huge red tails, some huge pacu, and some iridescent sharks. Now, I'm not exaggerating on the size here, but the ID sharks or the Peroon sharks were easily over 1 meter long, up to, I would say, comfortably 1.2 meters. These fish were absolute giants, and I would have said this pond or this huge tank was around the 25 to 30,000 litre mark, and that seemed around the right size and scale for these fish. So if you are considering any of these fish, make sure you have an absolutely huge aquarium or pond to house them. You can see when I put my hand against the glass just how big the pacu were. I would have easily said they were 20, 25 pounds in weight. Absolute monsters, and these were rehomed and housed from people that unfortunately couldn't keep them in their home aquarium. But we are coming slowly to the end of the tour. There were a few other exhibits that I did miss off this video, and I would definitely advise you to head down to the Brighton Aquarium and actually check them out for yourself. I would have said you could easily spend around an hour and 15 to an hour and 30 minutes just having a look around, really taking your time. Lots of different fish to see. We've got a brackish system here with all of the monos, and they had a panther grouper in there as well. And I would have said looking at the top down view, this tank was a good 10 to 20,000 litres. But that brings us to the close and the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Remember to keep those water changes up, and happy fish keeping.